Hey, it's Mr. Shrum, and I just wanted to go over a book that I think a lot of people should read. And if you're interested in anthropology, history, sociology, really anything, and I think you should read this book, give it a try. This man, Ronald Wright, he gave a series of lectures, and this book compiles those lectures into a short book, about 130 pages or so. So it's a pretty short book, but it fits in so much, and I think it's really eye-opening. And the main premise of the book is progress. And is progress good? Is human progress really good? Because there is a view that progress is inherently for the better, right? However, this book challenges that view. And instead of looking at past cultures and saying, oh, they didn't progress as much as us, they were behind us, but we are going the way we should go. We're doing the right thing. And, progress can be both good and bad. Progress can look like medicine, where we can treat ourselves and we can survive things that we could not before. And then progress can look like the atom bomb, which allows us to murder thousands of people at once. And that's not good, I would argue. Progress can be both good and bad, and progress for progress sake may not be the best course of action. And in this book, we look at the past civilizations that have collapsed, why they collapsed, and we look for clues that may indicate that our culture and civilization may collapse as well due to environmental issues that are a result of our economic policies, current economic and globalized policies. So this YouTuber, Chris H., he compiled this overview, and I think it's a good presentation for the main points in this book. And the book starts out with these three questions. Where do we come from? What are we? And where do we go? Or what do we do now? And we're going to look at the past, the present, and the future. So we're going to look at the past for clues about what's happening now, what could possibly happen, and what should we do about it. And the first section is all about the past and where humans came from, the formation of the earth billions of years ago, the origin of life itself, a Precambrian period, the Cambrian period, which is a big explosion of life diversity, and then life on land, which is a very small portion of the history of the universe itself. And if you zoom into that last period, we have ocean life only, age of marine invertebrates, age of fishes, amphibians, reptiles. There's the Jurassic period. And then you have the age of mammals and the age of humans. Look at that. I mean, our history is so small compared to the history of this entire universe. And the appearance of tool-making hominids was nearly 3 million years ago. 3 million years ago, people-ish type people were using tools to help them live. And the old Stone Age, the Paleolithic era of hunters and gatherers, is a deep abyss of time. More than 99.5% of our existence was in this Stone Age, from which we crawled into the soft beds of civilization only yesterday. Civilization as we know it is very recent. If you look at the structures around us, even from past civilizations like the Mayans, the Aztecs, their monuments are no older than 5,000 years old. The preservation of past civilizations, there's only 70 lifetimes between us and the first civilizations, 70 generations of people. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not that long ago, really. So it's very interesting to imagine that we are existing in the same way that these people existed back then. They are not that different from us. And between 8,000 and 10,000 years ago, the farming revolution produced an entirely new mode of subsistence. We call this the Neolithic Era. We went from hunters and gatherers, where men primarily hunted, women primarily gathered along with children. Then, most likely women, since they dealt with cultivation, they found a way to effectively cater for certain plants that they could eat. And this allowed people to increase their populations. If you didn't have to hunt and gather all the time, you could afford to have more people since you grew your food. And this enabled people to make progress a lot more efficiently. From the first chipped stone that they used for tools to the first smelted iron took 3 million years. So that Stone Age lasted a very long time. And then the iron came about and we started using iron in that way. And then from iron to the atom bomb, that only took 3,000 years. So millions of years between stone use and iron use, and 3,000 years between iron use and the atom bomb. So you can see how change is accelerating. We are changing faster and faster. And the reason that is, what is so interesting about humans and human development is that we leveraged natural evolution by developing cultures transmissible through speech from one generation to the next. We began to make ourselves. Evolution, natural selection, that takes time to develop. However, culture and passing on our knowledge to our children and their children is quick and a very efficient way to tell younger people how to live in a way that allows them to survive. So we are beginning to make and shape ourselves and the future with our culture, because cultures can adapt far more quickly than genes to new threats and needs. Civilizations are a very specific kind of culture. Ronald Wright defines this as civilizations are large, complex societies based on the domestication of plants, animals, and human beings. So we've become domesticated in a way. We depend on domesticated plants and animals and a domesticated way of life, which can be fragile. If our environment collapses, we will collapse as well. So that's where we came from, okay? Hunter-gatherers in the Stone Age to the Neolithic Era that allowed us to grow in numbers and make progress quickly. What are we today, though? What does the picture look like today? We are running 21st century software on hardware last upgraded 50,000 years ago or more. Now, what they mean by this is you could go 50,000 years ago. If you went back in time, brought a child from 50,000 years ago, came back in time and raised him in our culture, he would behave in much the same way as human children do today. They are not genetically that different from us. Culturally, we are leaps and bounds different from them, right? And that's a good example of how culture changes much faster than genetic evolution and natural selection. And that has allowed humans to make the progress. And that's what typically separates us from primates and other animals, for better or worse. The hunter-gatherers were much more animal-like. They looked for their food each day or every week or so. And they didn't look to the future as much as we do now, because a domesticated culture allows you the leisure and luxury to think about certain things, but it also takes a lot more resources to sustain such a large civilization. And this is the Maya ruins of their society. This is the Aztec depicted before, and this is the remains of the Aztec. Has anyone been to the Aztec? I mean, I think you guys should always go look at civilizations. And this is Easter Island. This was a big one in the book. Easter Island is a good microcosm to look at, because they were an isolated society on the smaller scale. And what happened, the choices that they made led to the collapse of that society, that culture. The short-lived empire of Ur exhibits the same behavior as we saw on Easter Island. Sticking to entrenched beliefs and practices, spending the last reserves of natural capital on a reckless binge of excessive wealth and glory, robbing the future to pay the present. And that is a very human thing, a very normal human defect, I would say. The human inability to watch out for long-range consequences may be inherent to our kind, shaped by the millions of years when we lived from hand to mouth by hunting and gathering. That was a sustainable way to live since the population was so small, and that was a sustainable way to keep living. However, with billions of people on this earth using more and more resources each year, and the population continues to grow, it may follow from this that we are descended from a million years of ruthless victories. And there's a big section in the book talking about how civilizations have ran endangered species into the ground, and that affected their livelihood. If you hurt the life system that sustains you, you will also be damaged, right? If you hurt the hand that feeds you, you're gonna get got, so to say, so to speak. And that brings us to the last question, which is, where are we going? We looked at what are we, what happened, where did we come from, and then what are we, and now where are we going? What can we do about this? The way our eyes follow the ball and not the game is very dangerous. And this is just a little example of maybe today looks green, today looks okay, right? Today looks all right. The match against desertification, today we play on this field, but in the future, I mean, it's already not looking great. And in the future, this could be desert. Desertification of land is very real. And the day after tomorrow, things may even get worse. And there may be a catastrophic ecological collapse. And the Easter Islanders carried out for us the experiment of permitting unrestricted population growth, profligate, use of resources, destruction of the environment, and boundless confidence in their religion to take care of the future. And we are doing that on a larger scale. The result was an ecological disaster leading to a population crash. They grew their population, they put a strain on the resources and the environment, and they collapsed as a result. And we are repeating the experiment on a grander scale. Look at all of our human development and how we are damaging the environment. And we need the environment to survive. There are only finite resources on the earth. These years may be the last when civilization still has the wealth and political cohesion to steer itself towards caution, conservation, and social justice. Social justice. So right now we are able to talk to one another through language and culture. We are able to understand people across the world. So right now is probably our best chance of coming together and radically changing the way things are done these days. Because small little reforms are not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's unsustainable. This is the earth being weighed down by all the humans. Mother Nature always comes to the rescue of a society stricken with overpopulation, and her ministrations are never gentle. If a population is above carrying capacity, what do you think happens? What did we learn from this? That population has to be reduced. And that will happen naturally or artificially. We may not be able to foresee every reef and hazard. So right now we're a metaphor. Human civilization is like a ship traveling waters. But by reading her compass bearing and headway, by understanding her design and her safety record, so understanding how civilization works and the abilities of her crew, and looking at how to navigate not damaging our ecology, we can, I think, plot a wise course between the narrows and bergs looming ahead. And that's the end of that presentation. So that is a short history of progress by Ronald Wright. And if any of those ideas interested you, I think you should go listen to lectures by Ronald Wright, read the book, and message me too. Because if you're interested in this type of stuff, I can point you to other resources. And I think that's great that you want to learn more. And I think more people should want to learn more how to ethically take care of the planet that takes care of us, right? In evolution and natural selection, you hear a lot of talk of survival of the fittest, right? Survival of the fittest, the person that can exploit the most resources, can compete the best with other species, is top dog. They are the king of kings. They are at the top of the food chain. But people and species and ecologies are built more on mutual aid and cooperation, a give and take, right? It's not so much survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the fit, as in how you fit into your surroundings. And you are more useful if you improve your surroundings. Humans do have the ability to damage environments, but they also have the ability to encourage biodiversity too. So never forget that we do have agency, but it will be hard, and radical change is hard, it takes cooperation. I think those quotes were from Derek Jensen and Dolores LaChapelle. They're environmental activists, and there are plenty of people that know way more about this stuff than I do, but I think this is a really good book to start out with, and I hope you enjoy it. All right. See you guys later. Bye-bye.